welcome back. So today we've got a really special recipe for you.
So today we're making breadcrumbs. Now it seems like a very, useless recipe unless you're going to be using breadcrumbs.
But that's not the case.
No, it's not. It's a really small ingredient, but it's very important in a lot of things that we don't realize. Like, for instance, we're going to be making stuffed mushrooms later on, and you need some little crispy topping on that. So it's perfect for that.
I'm just excited for the chicken tenders.
Yeah, that's yes. So this is definitely one of those recipes where we're going to make it, we're going to keep it in a little container, probably in the freezer so it lasts forever. But you just kind of forget about it until you need it, because when you need it, it's going to be there waiting for you.
So let's get started.
So we have a few very simple ingredients right here. First of all, we have a half a cup of almond flour, and here's half a cup of whey protein isolate. Now, whey protein isolate is like a super good ingredient, especially for vegetarians. I keep saying that all the time because we're always fighting for protein. It's a good source of protein, and it almost has like no carbs, no net carbs at all. So it works really well. We get ours from like the bulk bin at Sprouts, which is our kind of Whole Foods type of store near us. But it works really well in this recipe because it kind of dries out. Almond flour usually by itself doesn't have that crispness, but the whey protein kind of dries everything out and makes it really a nice texture for breadcrumbs.
So we have half a teaspoon of baking powder, we've got a quarter teaspoon of salt, and we've got a half teaspoon of xanthan gum.
Now xanthan gum comes in those little packets, which makes sure it stays fresh over time. So each of those packets has about like a tablespoon in it, but at this point we only need half a teaspoon. Oops, so our close-up camera just shut off on its own, the little demons around here. But just to recap, we have a half a cup of almond flour, we have half a cup of whey protein isolate, we've got a half a teaspoon of baking powder and a quarter teaspoon of salt in here so far.
And we were just about to add a half a teaspoon of xanthan gum.
And we're gonna mix this up really well, just dry mix. Can break down any big lumps that happen to be there.
And so once that's mixed, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of ghee.
And once again, just mix it through so that ghee coats all of the flours.
So we just want to mention that we've already got our oven preheated to 375 degrees. And lastly, we're going to add 1/4 cup of hot water.
And mix.
So we've also got a pan here, and it's got parchment paper.
If you don't have parchment paper, you can also grease a baking dish and that'll work just fine. And what we're going to do is pour this mixture onto this baking pan. Now, any size will work because we're not going to spread it all the way. We'll just kind of drop it on there and just kind of spread it as much as we need. And the idea here is to kind of flatten it out so it cooks pretty fast, but you don't want it too thin. And just tap down on the tray like that so it kind of evens out the batter. And in it goes for 15 minutes in the oven.
Okay, so the bread has just gotten out of the oven, and we're just gonna wait a little bit till it cools down.
Yep. Now this is how it should look, nice and golden brown. And you can even put it on a little cookie rack or something like that to kind of cool it down faster. So our little piece of bread for our breadcrumbs is nice and cool. And now all we're gonna do with it is we've got our food processor here. We're gonna break it into pieces, put it in there, and just kind of pulse it to make sure it turns into little crumbs like we need. And if you can see inside, it really does look like bread. And we're going to take it out into a nice, clean, dry bowl. And if you see any really big pieces, you can take them out.
So this recipe makes just about a little bit over a cup of breadcrumbs.
And so we're not done yet. This, like Sejal said, we have about a cup, a little bit just a shy over a cup of the breadcrumbs. And to it, we're gonna add 1 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Now this is the dry one that you get, it's pretty reasonably priced compared to the fresh shredded ones. You don't need the fresh, expensive shredded one for this recipe. Just a cup of this. And mix it through. And once that's mixed through, you have yourself 2 cups of breadcrumbs. Now we can leave these just as is, and what I do is put it in a Ziploc bag and keep it in the freezer. And then whenever a recipe calls for breadcrumbs, you can pull these out as much as you need and then flavor it according to the recipe you're making. So if you're making something Italian, you can go ahead and put in some Italian seasoning and garlic powder. If you're making something Indian, you know, put in some garam masala, you can put in some red chili powder, some cumin powder. So it's very, very versatile based on whatever recipe that you're making.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for those chicken tenders.
Yep, that too.
So thank you so much for watching our breadcrumb recipe. If you liked it, please give us a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe and hit that bell button.
And also leave in the comments what you would be able to use these breadcrumbs for, because I'm sure there's a lot of recipes out there that we're not even thinking of. But if you can come up with something amazing that this is going to work for, then please share it with us.
And lastly, if you want to see some of the things that we eat in a day, then go ahead and follow us on Instagram.
So remember guys, it's easy to keto.
If you know how. Thanks for watching. Bye.